All right, y'all. Let's hop on into it. I think this is gonna be this will be a pretty short one today. Actually, I don't know. That's probably a fucking lie, but it feels shorter today. This is lesson 9, and we're actually, even though this one is shorter, this one is like a. I've said this before, but fuck it. This is like a real turning point. This is like a real turning point here. But this is basically like we're going to take kind of these big concepts, that I've kind of went over, and these theoretical things, and we've had these little action steps along the way in here. But now we're going to see how all of this comes together now. And obviously, this is kind of the podcast, the more audio version of me just talking through it and getting a little deeper into some areas and really seeing what kind of direction feels best and feels like it'll be the most valuable to take. But ultimately, by the end of this, we're gonna have this literally like I call it the divine 9. And just to be clear, this is an adaptation that I learned from studying Tony Robbins and his Time to Be Alive, or time of your life. He has an audio program that he basically walks you through this step-by-step process of essentially creating this it really feels like this life management system that allows you to do all the things that you feel like you want to do in your life in a way that doesn't feel like you're just doing a bunch of shit and it's overwhelming, because it teaches you how to really focus in on results. But 2, it helps you to basically take these big dreams, these big goals, and things that seem like very big, like there's these big visions and it's got all these moving pieces, and be able to break that down into, okay, what do I got to do today? What's this week need to look like in order to really to manifest this bigger vision? And so for me, it's really it's a system of alchemy, essentially. It's a system of manifestation. And so what we're going to do, and I'm going to break this down, step 1, step 2, step 3, and there's 9. So in his system, it was the Magnificent 7, and that's kind of where I started with. But then I realized, which I'll kind of walk through as I go through it, but there were some pieces that felt like they were missing for me and that didn't quite match up to ultimately what I was trying to get out of it. And so that's where I came up with the Divine 9. Because now, it went from kind of 7. Now there's 9 key components, as you'll see here. And again, this is the kind of the more all over the place version of this. If you want to get more to the point and have more of a sequential format of, just step by step how to do this, then I would highly encourage you, or you just fucking do it, dude. Like, go and hop on the free course. Okay, I'm sure there'll be a link somewhere, or you're intelligent enough, you can find it. But go sign up for the free course, and that's where I'll break this more like down into a holding your hand process through it. And hell, if you even want to take it a step further, if you do our foundations program, which by the way, if you're the way that optimal evolution is being formatted is becoming more like this school. And because of that, the only way to be a part of the team ultimately, just like you go to school, it's like you got to start at a certain point, and there's kind of this prerequisites to get to the next level of training and the next level of teaching. It's the same kind of concept. And so you have to go through the foundations program, which is our kind of 12-week flagship program that is a, hand to hand, we're walking you through the process step by step of implementing all of these things in your life. So through this podcast, through the free course, like I'm giving it all away for free. Like it's the same process. It's the same stuff. It's just when you get into the program, when you get into the foundations program, that's where you'll be able to really like have somebody hold you accountable and really be able to implement the process for your specific situation. Okay, so kind of the way that I'm like formatting this, I guess, from even a business perspective, is like, giving as much as, like, literally giving everything away for free. That's why I've been creating all this content, because I kind of do this work up front, and then it's there. You can do with it what you want. And then really the levels of service isn't like I'm holding things back and you're necessarily getting more information. It's just the level of coaching and the level of accountability and the level of being able to work with you specifically to implement all of these different teachings and systems into your life. And that's kind of like, the layers of the service. If you're ever wondering, why am I giving all this away for free, and like, how does that even work, and all that stuff, that's kind of, just being transparent. That's really what I'm doing here. And so ultimately, like, by the time that you get to me, if you're wanting to work with me one-on-one, which really right now I don't even do that. I'm not really taking anybody on, although it's not to say that I wouldn't if the kind of situation was right and I was working with the right person. But either way, it's like by the time you get to working with me one-on-one, it's like I can justifiably give you some insanely obnoxious price, and it's like that's just what the fuck it is, because I'm giving this all away for free. And so if you want me to hold your hand, if you want me to jerk you off, like, I'm gonna ask you for a hefty fee. Like, I know what the fuck I do, and I know that this shit is good. I know that this hand is fucking magical, and so I'm gonna charge you a magician's fee here. All right. So that's kind of, I don't know, I felt like just explaining all that, plugging all that in. So let's get into this. So let me just recap here. So lesson 8, we went through the life types. So ideally now you have already at your disposal in your tool bag, what your major life types are, or at least as a starting place. Again, this is a continuously evolving process, and even the way that you build the system, you're building it, or we are, however you're doing this, we're building this system in a way that it already includes the time and the space and the energy and the resources to go through and rework things and allow things to kind of take their natural evolutionary course. Because you may say you want things today, and then a year from now, especially going through this process, and like when you see how much growth you will have had, your dreams, your desires, your goals, like all those things may change, and that's okay. And you'll see how even that's kind of built in to the system, and how we can go and we can modify and update those things on a periodic basis, and you kind of get into this rhythm of life, just like the seasons. There's just kind of this natural rhythm, because again, ultimately what we're trying to do, we're trying to maximize flow. We're trying to create a situation in which you are doing the best thing that you could possibly do as far as realizing your vision, realizing your dream, realizing your full potential. You are doing that in a way that literally feels like effortless, in the sense where, like, yes, it's going to require work. You're going to have to actually do stuff, but it's the concept of effortless effort, where when you're doing the right things, when you're doing things that are just a natural extension of who you are and who you are becoming, then it really doesn't feel like you're doing a whole lot. Just like if you're doing something that you really enjoy doing, you're doing something that you love to do, you're doing something that you're passionate about, it really doesn't feel like you're doing anything because you're doing something you enjoy. And even if it is hard work, like for me, training, like, yes, training is hard work. Like I am pushing my body to the limit, like literally on a daily basis. But to me, because it's something that I enjoy doing and I've created kind of processes around it that, literally streamline the entire way that I train and that I go about it, while getting the maximum results possible. It doesn't really feel like I'm doing anything. Like I'm just going and doing what I love to do, and that's really what we're after here. We're trying to set up a situation where all you're doing is exactly what you want to be doing. And by you doing exactly what you want to be doing, you are doing the most, like you're doing God's work by you just being you. And you were, aligning to your purpose. You were expressing your genius in ways that are being of the highest level of service possible. And again, you're doing it all without really feeling like you're doing that much. Because, we're trying to, again, we're trying to maximize flow. Like you're not in flow when you're, thinking about a million different things of what I got to do, and I should do this, and I should talk to that, and, this, that, and the other. You're in flow when you are fully present in the moment. And so we need to create a system that allows you to be fully present in the moment while still knowing that you are heading in the right direction, that you're, doing the high leverage activities that are really moving the needle. And it's marrying the left and right brain hemispheres. I think I talked about that last time. It's like marrying that holistic creative side and really just that presence of being, marrying that with the super logical and the rational and the systems and the scientific methods and all the different kind of tracking and measuring and everything that we can tangibly see and work with, marrying those two sides of things. All right, so by now you should have, like I said, identified what these kind of overarching life types are for you, and then have established some key processes related to those life types. Again, things that you love to do, things that you would do, whether it felt like you needed to do them or not, because they're just things that you enjoy to do, and they're things that are in line with your innate genius. And they're high leverage activities, meaning that if you just focus on these, single action items related to the life types, then you're going to be moving in the right direction. And all the other things that may be associated with those processes and or the goals that you're trying to see or realize from those processes, those just come as a natural byproduct of that. And then we've even, started to structure out your week and kind of given you a format. So now we're really going to start breaking this system down, and then we can install that all into, again, it's like this whole life system, this whole life program. Okay. So let's just break it down. So basically what you got to do now, you've got to take those life types. And like for me, there's the creator, there is the teacher, there is the leader, and then there is the master. And a quick note on those, and I don't know if I mentioned it last time or not, but there's, remember, there's always things come in complementary pairs. So there's always the yin and the yang. There's always the hot and the cold. There's always the wet and the dry, because that's what is necessary for experience to take place, to happen, to have an experience, to be in relationship. You need the complementary opposites. And so even within the life types, and this isn't like a super duper important point for what we're doing, but it's still something to kind of just plant the seed and something to be aware of. But even within the life types, there's always the other side of the coin. And this is just, just a kind of something that you can work with in many different areas of your life. But just remembering there's always the other side of the coin. So with the creator, like for instance, for me, my personal life types, for the creator, there is also the destroyer or I call it the disintegrator. And again, you can use whatever language makes you feel good. Okay. So on the other side of the creator is the disintegrator. So as much as I move into and kind of tap into and channel that creator archetype, that creator life type, on the other side of that, that goes along with the process of creation or being a creator, is the process of disintegrating, of actually taking things apart. And so again, just recognizing that, because part of my capacity to create is also tied to my capacity to destroy, is tied to my capacity to disintegrate. Okay. Same thing with the leader. And when I that one took me a little bit, but when I really felt into that, it was the other side of that was just lover. So it's like, as much as I'm trying to kind of lead people, I'm also learning just to love people, and they both go together. Again, they might not be like white and black complementary opposites, but for me, that's what just intuitively feels right for me. And which is, again, like when you start to put the system together, like there is kind of these rules of like, do this, don't do that. But the point of the rules is just to give you a little bit of structure to create the freedom. So it's like, once you have the basic structure, then the details start to, I wouldn't necessarily they become less important, but the details, there's a lot more room for interpretation. There's a lot more room for your own individual flair to come through on how you express those things. And so, the next one is the teacher. So on the other side of that is learner. And the master, the other side of that is apprentice. So again, that's a little bit of a side note, not terribly important, but this is something I thought I'd plant the seed with. So basically what we're going to do is, in the kind of the next step here, lesson 9, what we're getting into is we need to break down these life types. So we need to really give some substance to these life types, because essentially these life types are like in Tony Robbins' system, it's like he calls them categories of constant improvement. So there's like kind of these categories, or, if you imagine you've got different drawers for different aspects of your life. The challenge I had when I went through Tony Robbins' system is like, it became that I had, these 20 different areas that I wanted to continuously be improving upon in my life. And it was still felt, shit, it's just a lot. It's overwhelming. And so I needed a way to even distill that down further. And that's where I kind of came into these overarching life types. And you'll really, hopefully, I don't know, but hopefully you'll start to really appreciate how clear things start to become as we go through this process. And I mean, for me, it's like, never have I ever felt so aligned with what I feel like I'm here to do and how I'm here to show up. And a lot of that has just been going through this process. Okay. So I'll quit teasing you, and we'll stick it in here. So you got to break down these life types. And so I call it the Divine 9, because there's essentially like 9 steps that we're going to break this down. And it's basically, as you'll see, it's like we're taking this big idea and we're essentially distilling all that down into, okay, what do I got to do today that is going to be the most highest leverage thing that is going to move me towards the ultimate expression of that life type. So firstly, number 1 is the intention. So within each life type, number 1, you need to clarify your intention, which ultimately is like, you can also look at it as your ultimate vision, but what do you ultimately want out of this life type? What is the ultimate intention, or the ultimate way that you are expressing this life type? Okay. So I don't remember necessarily off the top of my head, but for me, like as the creator, essentially like the intention is to, in essence, create life-changing, life transformative experiences in ways that allow me to express all the different parts of me that, people can connect with. So that's the ultimate intention. As you can see, like that intention, it's the anchor. It's very valuable, and it is clear. And I'm very clear on what I want, but it isn't something that is tangible. I don't necessarily know when that intention has been realized, although maybe I can have that felt experience, that true knowing, which again is why this is fundamental. This is why we need this. But as far as something I can tangibly see, I can weigh it, I can measure it, I can hold it, I can check it off on a box. The intention isn't that tangible, although it is vital. Okay, one of the analogies that I like to use sometimes is like a bow and arrow, where the intention is really just defining what the target is. Okay, you're not necessarily like, you don't know, you haven't really aimed or anything yet, but you're very clear on what is the target that I want to hit. Okay, and then step 2 is purpose. So step 1, intention. What do I ultimately want out of this? What's the ultimate intention of this life type? Step 2 is purpose. So it's like, why is this important to me? Like, what are your reasons that you want to realize this intention? And the purpose is important because this is like the emotional drive. This is like I think Tony Robbins calls it the juice, the emotional juice that really gives substance to why you're even doing this, why you're choosing to move in that direction anyways, and why is hitting that target so important to you? Because when you have that, and again, this is like literally the process of manifestation. The intention is kind of taking, infinite possibility, and you're collapsing it. And that's like the element of fire. You're taking all these ideas, all these different possibilities, and you're saying, no, this is what I'm choosing. This is the intention. Okay, this is the target. And then the purpose is really the water element, in the sense that now you've got this emotional charge, emotions, energy and motion. You're creating this emotional charge that creates this, I forget what they call it in electricity. It's like a potential differential or some shit like that. But basically it's like now you've got kind of this, positive negative terminal, where now you've got this charge that current can move through. And that's kind of this act of now drawing this to you. The more intense that purpose is, the more, and if you just think about it in practical terms, like the more that you really fucking want something, like, if you're, I forget, was it Dan? I don't remember the guy, but he was like, if somebody's holding you underwater and you can't breathe, like imagine how bad you would want to breathe. Now, if you want to realize this intention that bad because there's that much purpose behind it, then you're going to fucking figure it out. You're going to figure out the best way that you can to make it real. And that's the point of the purpose. Okay, so number 3, so step 1 and 2 were kind of, parts of Tony Robbins' system. Step 3 is one of my additions, because again, we wanted a way, how do you take something that is intangible, this intention that is intangible, even though it is specific, how do you create something tangible out of that? So step 3 is the ultimate result. So based on what your ultimate intention is for the life type, again, you're going to be doing this for each individual life type. Based on what your ultimate intention is, what is the ultimate result? What is the ultimate way that you can tangibly express that intention? And then this is where you can be creative. It can literally be anything. And this is why we went through the whole conversation of what is your potential, because you need to be courageous enough and be willing to allow yourself to think and to dream and to envision as big as you want to. So for instance, for me, I went through my intention and then my purpose, which is like, I don't remember. I'll walk you through probably in the course, but I have like this notebook, or really it's a binder that I have all these things, and I review them every week. Just constant embodiment process. But then the result for the creator life type for me is, perform a sold out world tour. So again, that's something like that is tangible. I can weigh it, or can't necessarily weigh it, but I can like check it off on a box, like, yo, this happened. And again, like for me personally, that even though that ultimate intention is cool, or that ultimate result is cool, the intention is still where I place the most value. Like that's really the core of what I'm after. The result is really just giving me a way to know that the intention has been realized, and like giving me something tangible that I can see, that I can work with, that I can move towards. So now it's like, again, you're taking like the fire element and then the water, and now we're kind of earthing it. We're giving it some grounding, even though it still is kind of this mental idea, we're grounding it into something that is tangible. Okay. And that's like, there's a lot of magic in that, as you'll see. And then number 4 is your roles, or I call them like the masks. So essentially number 4 is like, in what ways do you show up? What roles are you playing in life that relate to the expression of this life type? So maybe that's the king, maybe that's the mother, maybe that's the entrepreneur, maybe that's the artist, maybe that's the wizard. And you can, again, like when you get to this process, you can be creative. Like this is where you can really just, I would encourage you to take a day, take a weekend, take a whole fucking week, and just sit with this. Because again, this is the important work. Like this lays the foundation for literally everything else that you're going to be doing. This is the important work. Take your time with this, but you can be creative with it, and just whatever, because really nobody's going to be seeing this but you. So it's whatever ignites that within you, and you're going to be reviewing this on a regular basis. So it's something that is going to just continue to keep the flame going. And so yeah, again, these roles, it could be, fucking sexy beast, like it doesn't matter. Pickle man, shout out to my boy Brandon Joe Williams. So it can be whatever you want it to be. So what are your roles? Again, it could be like 1, it could be 3, it could be a dozen. Doesn't fucking matter. Just what's that for you? Okay. Number 5 is your 3 to thrive. So I call it like, these are the modes of expression. So if you did nothing else, literally nothing else, what are the 3 key ways that you feel called to express this life type? Now, this might be related to the processes, although it may not be. So like for me, I think is like creating resources, creating experiences, creating a curriculum, just like those are the 3 kind of things that if I just did those 3 things and nothing else, those would be the highest leverage things that are going to move me to realizing the potential. Okay. Number 5, again, it's 3 to thrive. Number 5, 3 to thrive. Number 6 is resources. So number 6, you're going to just literally just create a list. You're going to list out what are the resources, internal and external, that I have available to me to be able to work with and express this life type to the highest capacity that I can. So again, it could be like, I've got books, I've got courses, I've got mentors, I've got teachers, I've got my own courage, my own discipline, my own pride, my own compassion, whatever that is for you. What internal and external resources do you have at your disposal? Okay. Number 7 is your 1 year results, or I would say 1 year result, and 1 year or 90-day result. So where would you ultimately like to see yourself in 1 year? And again, you want this to relate to the life type. So, the life type, and specifically you want this to relate to the result. So if my result is, for example, for me, as in my creator life type, my result is to perform at a sold out world tour, then, or that's the ultimate result, then the 1 year result ideally should be something related to that. So it's like, okay, well, from where I'm at now, based on, and then where I want to be, which is the ultimate result, what would 1 year ideally look like? And I think for me, it was like Okay, well, I want to have 100 monthly followers or listeners on Spotify. And I'm gonna hold on, I'm gonna restart the camera. So that for me, like if I did that in 1 year, that would be the one thing. Because the important thing with these results is you really want to distill down, you want to boil down, like what's the one thing. We're always kind of coming back to this theme of what's the one thing, because there's a lot of power in just focusing on one thing. So what is the one thing that if I did this one thing, that in 1 year, like this 1 year result, this would be the best thing that I could possibly do. This would be the best indicator that I'm moving towards that ultimate result. And the other side of this too is you also, which is actually number 8, but you also want this to be in line with your key process, which is why we've already identified that. Because again, if you're, for instance, like if I say that my 1 year result is to perform a sold out world tour, or that's my ultimate result. My 1 year result would be to have 100 Spotify listeners. But then my process is to, smoke 2 joints a week. Then that process, that may not necessarily correlate to realizing that 1 year result of 100 Spotify listeners. Because, again, maybe, there's some way that I can, which could be even genius, on the other side of it. But like maybe there's some way that, me smoking 2 joints will lead to the creation of some like really good music that ultimately then gets uploaded and distributed and marketed. Maybe that's what I've kind of been able to distill down. And if I did, that's fucking amazing. I'm like, oh, that's my key process. I just got to smoke weed and I'll make music and it's all great. Which, honestly isn't that far off from the truth. But for me, that's not like that doesn't really, because again, you also, and this gets to number 9. So let's just, I guess, finish number 7. I gave you a little idea, then we'll tie it together. So you have your 1 year result, which, okay, 100 listeners, 100 monthly listeners on Spotify. Then what's the 90-day result? So then what does that look like within this next quarter? And so that might look like, okay, I've got 15 monthly listeners. Okay. So then number 8 is, which I've already said, what's the key process? And so this is where, you may have identified something, but it may switch a little bit here. It may flip a little bit because, again, you want these things to be in alignment. You want to be able to see and to know and be able to measure that, okay, if I do this process, and for me, it's creating 1 song per week, even if it's just complete trash, that's my process. It's just 1 song per week, start to finish, 1 song. So that's my commitment. That's my key process that I've identified. And so for me, it's pretty aligned, because if I create 1 song per week and then I put, that inevitably, if I like it, it's just natural that I want to put it out there. And if I put it out there, then obviously, naturally, if I like it, I'm going to want people to listen to it. And so I'm going to do some kind of marketing for it. And then it's going to turn into more listeners on Spotify. So you see how these things align. And I can measure that. So that's number 8, is the key process. But again, it may take a little bit of adjustment once you see how all these things align. This is, you got the ultimate intention, purpose, and then you got the ultimate result. And then you want the 1 year result and the 90-day result to be in line with the process that then ultimately is going to lead to that result. Okay. And again, we're only working really, even though we created this ultimate intention, ultimate result, we're really only working in the span of a year, and really like 90 days is when you get down to it. Because, in my experience, once you get past a year, there's just so many different factors in life and things change. Like I said, you could be a completely different person in a year and wanting completely different things, especially going through this process. So for me, and as we'll continue to break this down here, the 90-day sprints is where I find most of the power. But again, you need to know the target. You need to know where you're ultimately heading to keep you in line with that. But as far as the tangible, practical, like this is what I do today, that's the 90-day result is where you're going to find the most power. Okay. So lastly, number 9, and of course I said this was going to be a shorter one, and it's actually one of the longest ones. So number 9 is your KPI and frequency. So KPI stands for key performance indicator, and then frequency just basically means how often are you going to measure this key performance indicator, this KPI. And the key performance indicator means what is the one metric, again, the power of one, what is the one metric that I can track that is related to the process and that is going to help me to move closer to that 1 year and 90-day result. And so this one's pretty easy, although, as you go through, you may find that you kind of got to stretch yourself a little bit, but most of the time it is pretty easy once you get to this part. And that's kind of almost one of the challenges with this, because sometimes it seems too simple. It seems too easy. It's like, no way that this is my fucking life we're talking about. No way that this could be this simple, but it is. And like, in my experience, when it feels like that, that's when you know you're onto something, because yes, it can, and in my opinion, it should be that fucking simple. Okay. So with this example that we're going with, my creator life type, the thing that I want to, based on the process, which is create 1 song per week, based on the results. So the 1 year result, 90-day result, which is like if 1 year is 100, 90 days, like 15, something like that. Okay. So based on that, what do I ultimately want to measure? And again, like, you want to get kind of creative here, because you want it to be indicative of moving towards the result that you're looking for, the 90-day, the 1 year. And you also want it to be right in line with the process. Okay. So for me, actually, this is a little different, because even though, it may seem like the number of listeners, well, actually I take all that back, just, fuck that. Cause I think the way that I actually wrote it down, I don't actually track the listeners. I think I track streams. That I kind of decided that was more important to me, but either way, it's, when it comes to what I'm measuring, I'm going to measure the listener, or whatever I'm choosing, that's related to that 1 year result. Again, I think I actually chose streams. So I'd be measuring streams, and that's what I have actually been measuring, is streams. So I measure the streams. That's the KPI, again, related to the one song per week. So it's like I do the process, and then through the process, I measure the result of the process, which is the KPI. And then I choose how frequently I'm going to measure it. Because obviously, some things, if you're measuring every day, you're not going to see much of a difference. So 1 week might be better. And even 1 week might be too short sometimes, or it might be too long in other instances. So you got to determine, okay, how often makes sense to measure this. And for me, it's weekly. So I have a little dashboard that I just made, Google Sheets, just real simple. Basically, because you do this for each life type. So basically you determine, after you go through this process, the Divine 9 for each life type, you'll have determined what are the key performance indicators for each one of those, and what are the results, what are the 90-day results that I'm looking for. And then you basically just create a little spreadsheet, and then you just, week by week, it's part of my my Sunday kind of planning and reflection time for the week, which is a whole process of kind of scheduling for the week and reflecting on the previous week. And we're going to go through that later. But basically, as part of that process, I measure the KPIs. But even if you just start doing that, what you measure, you're focusing on. What you focus on grows. So what you measure grows. Just by focusing on these things, literally, as you can already imagine, just going through the process and the clarity. Because now, once you finish that, now you maybe have it's just these few things. I don't know how many life types you have, 4 or 5 or 3, whatever. But I have 4. So it's like I literally just these 4 key things that I'm measuring related to these 4 key processes, related to these 4 key ultimate results, related to these 4 key intentions, which, I think we might go through this next time. I don't know. But basically, once you do that for the 4 life types, then you kind of create this synthesis of what is my ultimate vision for my life. Let me put this all together. Now, I used to think that this would be a good starting place, but a lot of times when I'm working with people, it's like, I have no fucking clue what I ultimately want for my life. So I found it a little easier to kind of go backwards and start with the more specific kind of day-to-day stuff, and then be able to create a picture around that then can be synthesized into this big overarching ultimate vision, ultimate purpose for your life. Okay? So that's it. Yeah. Hope you had some fun. Hope you learned some stuff. And implement this shit, bro. Like, I can talk about it all day. That's cool. You can listen to this. But you got to do it. You just got to do it. Like I said, this is the important work. Take some time, schedule out the whole day. Like, you'd be surprised what even just a few hours of just dedicated, non-distractions, just conscious effort, like conscious just thinking and kind of piecing things together for your life. It's powerful, bro. It'll change your whole life. I mean, don't take my word for it. Try it. But all right, y'all. See you next time. The journey is the way. Peace out.